Hi everybody, my name is Mr. Sharkey, and if you're watching this video, I have your student for Chemistry 1. Excited for a good year, so let's get into it. I graduated from IU with degrees in psychology and neuroscience. In that coursework, I did a lot of chemistry undergraduate work, and then I continued my education to get my teaching license in chemistry, also from IU. Let's talk about the class. Chemistry 1 is just an introductory chemistry course. We focus a lot on foundational understanding of matter, and then once we kind of get the base down on what matter is and the different forms of matter, we start talking about chemical changes and how that matter can interact with new matter to create new substances. We pretty much follow a historical path of how early chemists first started talking about and discussing matter, and then all the way up to our current modern day understanding. In terms of student expectations, I've ordered these. Participation in class is the most important thing your student can do to be successful. Oftentimes, the students who struggle are the students who aren't working in class, distracted on phones, distracted talking to friends, distracted spacing out. There's a lot of opportunities to work in groups here, which can be super duper helpful if your student is actively participating in those opportunities. But if they are slacking off and not engaging in that group work, they can kind of hide in the shadows of the success of their peers. So if your student is not being successful in here, the first thing I would do is have a conversation with them about their in-class participation. Up next is finishing work in class. Most of the time, I will give them time to work on things in class. So if they are coming home and saying they have a bunch of work to do in chemistry, they probably are not using their time in class wisely. And then last thing is to perform on assessments and reassess when necessary. Our grade, getting to my next point, is 100% assessment based. We just call them assessments instead of tests or quizzes because they're all the same in terms of length. But each individual objective that we talk about in here will be broken down into an individual assessment. Students will take that assessment once in class, get some feedback. They'll take it a second time. That second round assessment will go in and stay in the gradebook. And then there will always be an opportunity for them to reassess an SSRT. And instead of a final, we have what's called the final reassessment, or the FRA, where students can test out of units if they do well. But any units that they were not successful in, they will have to reassess during that final reassessment. I will always keep the most recent score. So in theory, student score could go down, but our school policy is that the most recent grade is the one that is reported because it's the most accurate representation of the student's understanding. In terms of those assessments, there'll always be one page front and back per topic, but students just got their first round assessment back by the time you're watching this video. So if they're experiencing uncertainty or stress around that, it could be good to go through and look at those. I try to give as much feedback as I can on this very first round assessment to make sure they know where they're getting credit and where they're kind of missing the ball on some of these points. Last thing to talk about in terms of grades, we use standards-based grading. So rather than A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's, we use E's, M's, L's, R's, and N's. Ultimately, it's still a five-part grading scale. Just like AP uses 1 through 5 instead of the traditional letter grades, the grade is still communicating the same thing. An E is essentially an A, an M is essentially a B, an R is essentially a C, an L is essentially a D, and an N is essentially an F. There's more information on the Canvas page about the breakdown of standards-based grading, but since we've changed to it, student grades have gone up, so it seems to be helping the students overall, and we will continue to use it because it benefits the students. Finally, let's look at the Canvas page and talk about it real quick. If you open up our Canvas page, the only place I would ever go is the Modules tab. That's the only thing you or your student will ever need. We break down our agendas into a weekly agenda. So this is the weekly agenda for this week. You'll see the tasks for each day. They're color coordinated. So blue and gold will be color coordinated, and then the tasks themselves are color coordinated with where the students can find them. Orange things are on Canvas, purple things are in their 3 levels packets, green things are in their labs packets, and then blue and green are in notes and labs respectively. Pink is for the practice packet. If your student's ever missing, they should always come here. It will tell them what module they need to go to and then what things they need to work through in that module. So again, the modules tab is where everything is going to be. If you're looking at today's agenda, we're in the measurement and uncertainty module, and you can work through the things in order. So if your student's ever absent, everything they need will just be in these modules. They are always updated so that they are in order. So your student should be able to find out where they left off, and they really just need to look at that agenda to figure out where they end for the day. So if they are absent, or even if they feel like they need to go back and look at some resources, that's the best place to do it. In terms of tricks for Canvas, sometimes we set up requirements to move on. So they have to submit an assignment or they have to mark an assignment as done for the rest to unlock. So for instance, we had that set up with worksheet 2. In order to get access to the key, the students had to submit it. But a lot of students in this first couple of weeks were struggling to actually get that uploaded into Canvas. So I removed the settings so that we could all move on to the next thing. But as we move forward, if your student is locked out of something on Canvas, have them look at it and see if there are these little notes that tell them what they have to do. So for instance, this reading scales practice, they have to mark as done before they can move on to these extra practices. This very last thing here, this measurement and unit conversions assessment, they have to submit it before they can move on. So I do not love Canvas. I think that it is often overly complicated, but I will do my best to keep it updated and make sure the students know where they need to look when they're absent or when things aren't working. So that's everything I have for you today. Thanks for watching. Bye.